Hello, eBay Ninjas. Welcome to episode 174 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is July 17th, 2024. My guest is Cheryl in Ohio, and wait until you hear who she is married to. I absolutely did not know this. He is a superstar in our Facebook group. Announcements? Nothing really earth shattering. I did want to share a project I'm working on because I had no idea. I bought a lot of probably several hundred little tiny motel hotel soaps on an online auction. I haven't actually counted how many are in the lot. It was like 3 big buckets full. It was an estate sale online. And I have sold that kind of thing before, but these are like vintage and international. There's a few in there from a hotel in Yugoslavia that hasn't even been a country since 1992 when it became Serbia. So it's very interesting, and I'm in the process of sorting all that out and creating different listings. In the lot were some fancy designer perfume type soaps that really high-end hotels offered. They're in these plastic cases, so it's been quite the sorting project, but it's soap, so it all smells good to me. And there's discontinued brands like Camay, Cashmere Bouquet. That's like our grandmother's soap. I remember my grandmother had Cashmere Bouquet, Palmolive, Lux. So just a lot of cool things to look at. And since it is going to be 96 today here in Illinois, that is my inside project as I sit in front of the air conditioner. So you just never know what you might come up with, and I can't wait to see how these soaps do. One thing you got to be careful with is how many you put in a lot because many of them are heavy. So you have to keep the shipping doable for the buyer and not make it cost prohibitive. So either structure the listing around what will fit in a flat rate box or just be mindful of how many you put in there because these soaps, like 40, 50 of them, are pretty heavy. But I know they are used at events like Coachella, Burning Man. They use them as currency and they trade soaps with each other. And I've heard of people buying them for mission trips and for working with the prisons because they don't get really anything good there. But not sure about the vintage ones, how that's going to work, how collectible those are, because I have never seen this amount of vintage soap all together. So that's what I'm working on, escaping the July heat. So let's get into the chat with Cheryl.
Hello, listeners. I have Cheryl with us today. How are you doing this morning, Cheryl?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. And we're actually recording this on a Sunday morning. So we do what we need to do to get this podcast on.
Absolutely.
Well, let's start off by talking about where you're located.
I am in Perrysburg Township, Ohio, which is just outside of Toledo.
Okay, so Holy Toledo. Okay.
I know, right?
And when did you start on eBay and what brought you to reselling?
My husband actually brought me to reselling back when we were dating. We've only been married for, it'll be 3 years exactly tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And you actually know who my husband is, maybe. He's Mark Cheryl. You interviewed him a couple of years ago. The Mark Cheryl.
Oh, and I was, I guess, online friends with his sister.
Yes.
And, in Atlanta, like we were both there. We never met in real, but every now and then I get a memory on my Facebook of something that Lynn posted on my page, and it was so devastating to hear of her passing a few years ago. It was just so sudden, and she was too young. And but
Just such an
I
amazing
think about
person.
Lynn all the time because she was just so funny, and I miss her.
Yes, we do as well. And I think, and Mark really enjoyed doing the eBay sales with Lynn. They would text each other when they found things. And so that was a real important part of their relationship, was sharing that.
Well, I had no idea you guys were together.
Surprise. Well, you can see why I didn't take his last name, because Cheryl with two different spellings would be too
Oh,
spelling.
Mark. Oh, that is a good point. Well, I just got married 2 months ago, and I haven't changed my name on anything yet. Just it's such a process. It's and I'm like, well, maybe I will. I don't know. I mean, my business stuff I'm leaving the same because that would
Yeah.
be confusing. But it we're on the same team there of like, sometimes it's later in life, it's kind of a little complicated.
It's
So
very complicated. All the online things, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good. Cheryl Green, we're married. That's what counts. And
and in this day and age, you have to prove everything. I mean,
absolutely.
for Social Security and all that. And I will be 58 this year. So I'm not too far away from being able to do that. And so I just feel like I just leave it all the same. And
I'm with
means
you.
I love you any less. It just means I don't want the hassle of going
Exactly.
through all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wow, you just blew my mind with that information. So, did you do that on purpose? Did you like, yeah, tell her that
Well,
we're married?
I didn't know if I thought about mentioning it earlier, but I'm like, it'll come up. It'll be fine.
Now, and
It'll be
just for
part
the
of the story.
listeners, Mark has a degree in theater something.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
theater.
And
He
so,
does lighting and set design.
okay. So he does a lot of the vintage products, like when he finds old laundry detergent boxes or old razors or, whatever. He is very good at that.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, business enthusiasts, ready to boost your entrepreneurial journey? Tune in to the Growth Gear Podcast with Tim Jordan, presented by Carbon 6. Tim dives into cutting-edge business growth strategies and new brand insights. Whether you're a startup founder or a seasoned exec, gain the tools to elevate your business. Subscribe to the Growth Gear with Tim Jordan on your favorite podcast platform. Shift into high gear. The Growth Gear is your guide to fast-paced business success.
Yes, and it is something I look for as well, but I do not have the eye that he has yet. So maybe someday, but
But it's good that you do
I'm
different
starting
things.
way behind him. So
Yeah, but it's good that you do different things because and so my new husband has started coming along on sourcing trips, and he knows different things. So
Mhm.
don't try to learn what I know. Everyone brings their life history with them and already knows about certain things. So just stay in your lane. Nothing's better than, one is not better than the other. It's just different. So,
Right.
did he get you into reselling before you got married?
Yeah, we started before. He would go to estate sales on Saturdays, and he would invite me, and sometimes I would go and sometimes I wouldn't because I was busy. And I kind of told him this is maybe a you thing. But then I started going more and more. And what I think started to change it, I told him I go to these estate sales and I feel overwhelmed. I don't even know what to look at, what to even look up on eBay to see if it's worth anything. And so he started to educate me on some of the things he likes to list and why he does. And so I started to just get a little bit of the bug. But the reason I really took a long time to get involved is because it wasn't until we moved in together when I suddenly had a shipping department. I have boxes and I have tape machine and I have a label maker now, and it's totally changed everything. Not having that stress of, oh my gosh, I've sold this. Now I have to find a box. Now I need to, well, oh, my tape is out. I didn't have a label maker. Like all of those things have, they just have made it so much easier and much more enjoyable. So once I had a shipping department at my fingertips, I was off and running.
That is a big help to just kind
Yes,
of glide into a situation that's already set up. Because that shipping is the most overwhelming for new
it
people.
certainly
And
is.
not only do you have, you know, the supplies, the setup, but you've got a person right there to help you.
I don't know how many times I'm like struggling with shipping and a weird item, and he comes down and just silently looks at me, gently takes it from me, and shows me how to do it the right way.
Oh, I love it. Oh, you are so
He's
blessed.
a
Oh,
great help.
that's wonderful. I love it. So do you have separate accounts or do you sell on
We
the same?
do. We
Okay.
do have separate accounts, and it is always fun when, one of us, is like ahead. He's like, have you sold anything yet today? I'm like, no. And he knows
Oh, a
I
little
just know most of the
competitive.
time because I don't
Okay.
have nearly the volume of inventory that he has. But it's not really a competition. We know there is no competition between the two
Well,
of
it's a
us,
little
but we
fun.
push each other.
It's a little fun competition between
Yes.
husband and wife. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Uh,
Yes, it is fun.
yeah, that we haven't gotten to that point yet. I don't think my husband's ever gonna want to do his own account. Because he just he's got all his own stuff going.
Yeah.
So he does definitely help me find things. So I like that part.
I
Um
do too.
we went over to Missouri this week and hit one of the Goodwill bins. It was about an hour, 15 minutes away. We went over there, hit those bins, and I don't know how many of them do it this way, but we're definitely going back to this one. It's in Bridgeton, Missouri, and
Okay.
they open at 10 in the morning, and it's all fresh stuff. They've taken everything out from the night before. Every single bin is emptied. There were so many tractor trailer trucks at this location. We're like, why do they have so many? So I don't know where all the old stuff goes, but they take it all out. It's all fresh when you go in at 10. They're open till 1, and then they close for 2 hours, and they do that again. They take everything out and then
Oh my
bring
God.
fresh stuff in.
That's
So if you
amazing.
can stand to be on your feet that long, take a 2-hour lunch break and come back, you're going to see all new stuff.
That's
And
amazing.
so we have one in Jacksonville, Illinois, and like I've been a few times and maybe 2 or 3 weeks between, and it's like, yeah, I saw this last time. I saw this last time, but not so. Have you ever heard of that? Do y'all do the bin?
No, that I've definitely never. Usually it's weekly, I hear that they start fresh.
Okay.
Twice in
Yeah,
a
this is
day.
so we walked in and there's like all these people. It wasn't aggressive or, pandemonium or anything. It was just a lot of people. And I was like, wow, this one's crowded, and now I know why. But I found so much good stuff. And then we went around to a bunch of St. Vinny's thrift stores,
Mhm.
and I learned that St. Louis is a big Catholic presence. I didn't
Okay.
realize that. So there were so many of those because it's a Catholic based thrift store. There were so many, and we didn't have any in Georgia. Maybe there was one, but it was like terrible. So that was a great road trip to see all new things. We're doing that again too.
It
So
is
the
fun to
listeners,
try
the
different
listeners, if
places.
you know of any of these Goodwill outlets that operate this way, switching it out twice a day, I'd love to hear it because
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know that existed.
I didn't either. Now I'm going to have to look for them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I got off
No,
topic.
that is good. And
Um, so
I think it's very exciting that when you find new things. I mean, even just sometimes we go outside of our local geographic area, like we'll go up to Ann Arbor to go to estate sales instead of the ones
okay.
in Toledo. And
Yeah.
it's because it's more affluent. There's a lot of mid-century modern homes, so there's a lot of mid-century modern pieces, and you can really get different things when you're willing to venture outside of your normal area. So
Mhm.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, and it makes a fun road trip. We got a hotel, we did the bins, and then went and ate dinner and stayed in a hotel, and then the next a whole bunch of thrift stores. And I hadn't done that in a long time, and definitely not with somebody. So it was something we're gonna do more often. It was just fun to have both of us there, and a little road trip. Yeah, it was an hour away, but you gotta you gotta make time to do these little getaways because they're fun.
Absolutely.
So do y'all go together to estate sales? I know Mark is very big on estate sales.
Yes, we typically go together, but the funny thing is when we get to a house, we always split up. I usually start upstairs, he usually starts downstairs, and a part of that is me because I know once he's gone through a room, I'm probably not finding anything. So I need to start fresh, and then we kind of cross each other in the middle, and we'll usually check in and see what we're finding or ask questions. Like I'll say, I found this, I'm not sure about it, and I'll get his take on it. So we will interact, but we definitely start and look separately while we're at the estate sales.
Do you have certain things you look for that he doesn't?
Um, Maybe it's hard for me to say for sure. I mean, he definitely got me into the kind of health and beauty and discontinued items.
Yes.
Those things are great because I'm a lazy eBay person, probably because this is a hobby for me. And so I
Uh-huh.
want easy to ship things, right? I want small packages, nothing difficult, not as much in the fragile category. And so, he got me into those things. But I am trying to start to venture out a little bit. I'm, of course, watching your site and read your book. And so, like, I recently picked up a cross stitch that was a completed cross stitch. I never even looked at those before, and I haven't sold it yet, but I did get an inquiry from somebody who was super excited about it. But she asked what color the frame was because she wasn't sure from the photograph. And it turns out the frame was dark blue and she needs black because all of her collection are black and she didn't want to reframe it. So, but there's interest in it. And so, I'm starting to try to do some new things and I'm excited about that.
Good for you. Good for you. And so you're what, 3 years into this?
About 3 years
Okay.
for
Okay.
when I really started to look with him. Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's fun. Well, I reached out to you because you're posting on the group. Thank you
Yes.
very much. So why don't we talk about some of your sales? Because this
Sure.
podcast is about you.
I'm definitely a hobbyist. I work full time. I have two kids, although I'm newly empty nest. And so I really only sell about one item a week. I only have 70 items listed right now.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like year to date, I looked at my year to date sales. It's about $1,400 to date,
Okay.
with 31 items sold. So, that's about the volume I am now. I, of course, hope to grow that. But my best sale to date was an LL Bean tote, the red and blue one.
Oh, Mark finds those all the time.
Well, he shouldn't have told me because I spotted it first and I brought it out
Good.
to him and I
Good.
could
Yep.
just tell he was like
Yep.
simultaneously excited for me and maybe a little disappointed he didn't get
A little bit of
it.
jealousy there. Dang it. I wanted that. Yeah.
So yeah, I bought that for $2 and it sold same day for 250. I might even been like minutes for
Really?
250.
That
Yes.
is great. I've never found one. And that's in one of my books. And actually, my husband was looking through my books because he was like, I need to know what to look for when we
Mhm.
go. And I'm like, I have these books. Why don't you look? There's pictures. And he saw those LL Bean totes. He's like, oh, my mother has like 5 of these in her basement. And I'm like, well, you need to figure out how to get over there and get them back here without her knowing. He's like, yeah, they've probably been down there for 20 years.
Yeah, and you probably need to jump on it because who knows when that will eventually decline and no longer be an item of interest, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
It's
been
been
a
a few
thing
years
for
though
quite a
now.
while, and they're made so well.
They are.
Older
They
ones are
really
made
are.
so well with that thick cotton canvas. I saw them in a movie the other night. You know, we have that
Wow.
problem of looking at the props in the background. I'm like, oh, she's carrying an LL Bean tote because you can see the logo on it. It was back in the day before they started covering up logos and
Oh,
you know
yeah.
making fake brands, like the cereal's a fake brand because the you know the corporations, they're like, you have to pay if you're going to show Cheerios in your scene, you know, and
Right.
they started making up all these ridiculous names. But no, this was back like in an 80s movie, and totally recognized it.
Of course. Yeah, because now once you have in your head, now you're like always scanning for them.
Yeah, and so you paid how much for it?
$2.
Two. Ah,
$2.
and it was an estate sale.
Yes.
So that just
And a
goes to
pile of
show.
bags and totes in a
Was it
bedroom.
was it a family run estate sale or a
I
company?
don't think so. I think a company run. Most
But
of the ones we go
still,
to are company run.
that just goes to show you that if you have a better eye than the estate sale company, the thrift store, wherever you're going, no, they can't mark everything up.
Right. And,
Even if they
especially if
know.
there's a high volume of items, like
Mhm.
with this, they just put all the bags in a big box and it was like $2 for any bag, and so they didn't individually price things.
Yeah, they tend to bulk price, like all towels are $3 or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's where you can come out ahead if you are the smarter person and you can spot these things quickly and not have to look them up all the time. I mean, yeah, sometimes I do look things up, but the more you can recognize just immediately,
Mhm.
better off you're going to be because you don't have to stop. And sometimes there's not good internet and it doesn't load, and you're like, oh, come on, you know. So,
I-
well, that was a great find.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That's definitely my best sale to date. My second best is a Department 56 item. Union Oyster House was specifically what it was, and I don't know how much I paid for it, but I did sell it for 125, and so that was nice. I'm sure I didn't pay more than 25 for it.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
I do a
those
lot of
are,
Department 56, but you do have to watch pricing on them.
yes. And going back to Mark again, I think when we talked one time, he had just bought all this Halloween stuff.
Yes, he did.
Like
It
the
was
entire kitchen
everywhere.
full of, I think it was Department 56
It
Halloween stuff.
was.
Okay, so has he worked through that?
I think most of it, yeah. I don't know that he has a lot of it left, but he sold those for great prices. The
Yeah.
Halloween really went. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Halloween might be second place behind Christmas for decor. You know, people are all about that holiday because, Halloween's just fun. You don't have to worry about giving gifts,
Yes.
parties, you can dress up. It's the weather's nicer,
Yeah.
Um, so some people are just really nuts about Halloween and they just love I always look at the Halloween decorations when I'm out there because some of them are quite pricey. If it's Department 56 or Lennox or Jim Shore or even Christopher Radko makes some Halloween stuff. So yeah, you learned that quickly living with him, I guess.
I certainly did.
Okay, well, what else is on your list?
I was very proud. This was early on. One of my own finds. It was a Cinnabar dusting powder,
Yes.
and it was sealed. So it was, I always check dusting powders, and usually they're not sealed, and you open them up, and then you smell like the powder for the rest of the day.
Right.
But this one was thankfully sealed, and I bought that. I don't recall the price. I wasn't tracking back then. I was so casual. I'm sure it was probably $5 or less, and I sold it for $110. So
Oh,
that's a
great.
very nice
Is
sale.
that Estee Lauder?
I think maybe Cinnabar is. I'm not
Okay, I think
100%
I
sure, but I
found
think
that
you're right.
once. I found a little tiny perfume of that once, and it sold for at least $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so any of that Estee Lauder sealed stuff, because now you can't sell the perfumes, if they're partially used, they have to be new, which is a bummer because I see them
Yeah,
all the time.
you do see them all the time for sure.
Was that an estate sale?
That was, yeah.
Good for you. Okay. Do you guys do you go every weekend looking for eBay stuff?
We do. We go every Saturday. It's our thing. We get up in the morning. At this point, because there's so many in the summer, I bring a sandwich so we don't even have to stop for lunch right away.
Very smart.
I've learned. I know we just try to power through. And then the other thing we're doing more often is there's a liquidator warehouse, bin sales. I don't like to go on Saturday because it's $10 and I have trouble with that price point and the returns I can typically get with the things that they have there. So we typically have been going more often, like on Sundays when it's $6, or Mark will go during the week when it's even less, especially if we find something we like, but we wouldn't buy it unless it were less.
So is that like by the pound?
No, it's per item.
Okay.
Lately it's been mostly, or when we've gone, it's been mostly like Amazon returns. That's the most typical that I've seen. The trick with that is I did like buy something the other day thinking it was sealed and so forth. And then I realized afterwards that they had actually sliced it open with a razor blade and removed the item and then reclosed it. So you got to watch the shady returners out there, both at a bin liquidator. Plus, I had a shady return. I don't typically accept returns just because my volume's so small. But if somebody requests, I will honor it. And somebody said that it was a Ralph Lauren flat sheet. I had bought it for $5. It was in the cellophane. And it was like definitely vintage. I mean, that cellophane, like you touch it crumble, that kind of thing. I sold it for $89 in the sealed cellophane. It had a tear in it, but it was closed. And when the person returned it, they said, "What the heck? You sold me a cut sheet. This thing is like actually cut." And I'm like, there's absolutely no way that somebody cut that sheet and put that back in that cellophane. It's not the type of cellophane that recloses. But I didn't want the hassle. I accepted the return. She sent back the now partial Ralph Lauren sheet, which I've relisted for like $25, but I haven't sold yet, as a remnant. But I'm so annoyed. I blocked that person from my future sales. I don't want to deal with that again. So you do have to watch the occasional shady buyer.
Yeah, we don't need customers like that.
No.
Yeah, and really, I hate to say that, but you have to think in your head. Yeah, there's millions more where you came from, and
exactly.
It's just that bad apple, and I'm like that too sometimes. It depends on what mood I'm in. Like, I had a $100 item and the person sent me a $10 offer. And it's just, I don't even want to negotiate with that because I just feel like they're going to find something wrong with it. They're going to want a partial refund, and I want somebody who understands the value of it. Like if it was a $75 offer, I would look at that, but it's just like, come on.
Well, one of the lessons I've learned that stayed with me through life, one of my, the companies I worked with years ago, they had a consultant come through and they told us 10% of your customers cause 90% of your problems.
Yep.
You have to cut out that 10% and you will be much happier. It's okay to you don't have to have every client in the world. So that has stayed with me.
Yes, absolutely. Not everyone is going to be your customer.
Right.
It's like, well, I don't know that I want that customer.
Exactly. And I've heard so many others who have been so grateful, sent me messages, good feedback that they're so excited that they have this item. And that always makes me really happy. That's one of the reasons I like doing this, is getting that feedback that somebody got just the right item that they couldn't have gotten any other way.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes you look at a message or an offer and you're just like, yeah, that's not happening.
No.
Okay. So what about your, I'm thinking of the two of you doing this in your household. So do you have separate storage areas for your stuff?
We do. Mark has like half the basement. He has shelving units and he has it all organized, all the Christmas in one area and so forth. That's all his area. And I have a growing like pile in the other side. But he actually said the other day, he's like, we need to get you a shelf. So it's time because it basically wasn't like a crate, to start with. And now it's
Uh-huh.
like overflowing and there's just things set on the floor and it's time
Yeah.
to actually get it organized. I mean, it is organized. I do have all my health and beauty in one section and that and so forth, but it's time to get it like looking like a little inventory shelf. So
Well, and if you're planning to stick with it, you need room to grow.
I do.
Yeah, maybe that was like, okay, let's see how she does with this. If she sticks with it, and if you're like into it,
Mhm.
which sound like you are.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
bug
know.
is bitten for sure.
I don't know anybody who just kind of sort of likes eBay. Like most people love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think really for me, it's just a matter of the time. I mean, this now has taken over our Saturday, and now I just have Sunday to get everything else done that I need to get done, which is a challenge. And so if it weren't for the time, I would probably be doing it a lot more. But
Mhm.
I just, I have to, I only have these hours of the day. And so that's really what I can devote to it.
And you work, quote, a regular job during the
I,
week, right?
Yes, a very time intensive, challenging position. So I am very busy during the weekdays.
And do you want to tell listeners what that is?
Sure, sure. I'm actually an attorney, but I'm not really practicing in my current role. I'm at a title company, and I do commercial real estate closings. So I do national commercial closings. We have large clients like, an auto parts retailer, for example, or a fast food chain, and we do their real estate across the nation. So I get on an average day about 200 emails a day, but on a busy week like last week, I got 400 emails a
Oh
day.
my gosh.
And you're just an email like literally every couple of minutes, and you have to read it, decide what to do with it, respond. You have to keep everything organized for your deals. And these are like the deals I've been closing lately are, 20 to $40 million deals. So you really have to be on top of it every single minute you're working. You're not thinking of anything else.
Wow. And that's probably maybe you work every day to keep up
Oh,
with.
well, not on the weekend. We're very grateful. I have a wonderful, wonderful manager, and we don't have to work weekends. Thank God.
Okay.
But I do
Okay.
work late a lot. We have a lot of Central Time customers. I'm Eastern Time, and then a handful of Pacific Time customers. So I tend to work later hours because of that, just because they're still working. And so it's hard for me to leave, at a normal time a lot, especially when
Right.
we're busy. So,
Well, it's good that
so
you
yeah, at the end
have,
of that, I'm done.
and you work from home.
I
So
do.
it's good that you have those boundaries because that all that title work is like mountains of paperwork. And
Yes, yes.
probably
And I have
could,
learned how to do it entirely electronically. I don't print anything anymore.
but you probably could say, oh, I'm going to spend a few hours on Saturday catching up. And
Yeah.
you just don't do that.
I pretty
Boundaries.
much keep my weekends sacred at this point. I'll work late. I'll keep going so I can come in on the next day fresh. But weekends, I really try to keep sacred for myself and my family. And my sanity. I need the
Yeah,
break.
absolutely. And being newly married still, um, that time is important, you know,
Absolutely.
be able to pull away from your work and be with actual people, not just the computer. Are there any kids in the house or is it just you two?
We're kind of newly empty nesters. My daughter just graduated from high school this month. So she's still here, but she splits part-time with her dad. And then my son is a rising senior in college. So
Mhm.
he's living actually in Mark's old house in Bowling Green because he's going to Bowling Green. So that's worked out
Okay.
nicely. Yeah, that he's
Okay.
able to live there. So
Good.
Yeah, so there's still, you never stop being a parent, and I'm still involved and so forth, and answering questions and being there for my kids, but it's definitely a different level now, and a lot more freedom, which is I appreciate.
Yeah, I think Mark's about the same age as me.
Uh, let's see here. I always have to actually think about it. I'm 52, he's 51.
Oh, so y'all are just children. I was born in 1966, so maybe Lynn was the same age as me.
Yeah, Lynn is a few years older than
Okay, that's what it
Mark.
was
Yes,
then.
she is.
Right. Okay. Well, great. So um what about clothing? You sell much clothing?
Not a lot. I found a really nice, like a chunky sweater, 80s style, Cosby style sweater. And that I think I bought it for like 10. I sold it for 50.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it maybe a month or two, I think, if I recall correctly. I do have a leather coat I've listed now. It's a just beautiful leather coat that I got for $25. I've had some people ask about it. I'm selling it for $99 right now. But I listed it right when the weather started to warm. So I'm kind of waiting to see how it goes in the fall and the winter. If maybe I get a hit, and if I don't, I might reduce the price at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I have some vintage, like acid washed overalls that I've listed. I haven't sold those yet, but I haven't done a lot of clothing because it's a pain to do
Yeah,
clothing,
it is
you
time
know?
consuming.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to do returns, and people are nervous about buying clothing with no returns. So I really haven't done much, but I do always look and see if anything pops out. Mark's been doing more clothing lately. He's been getting like shirts at Goodwill that he
Mhm.
finds that are nice. So he's had some success with that recently. So we're venturing out a little bit into clothing, but not too much.
Well, that's what you love. And I'll even say, now that I've experienced the Goodwill bins, I just don't like digging through clothing that way.
Yeah, yeah. And condition is always an issue. You have to really look because you might not notice a tear or a stain, or especially in like estate sales, the lighting is dim. You might not see it sometimes in those bedrooms. And then sometimes it's a house with smoking, or a house that has that musty smell. And in those cases, I don't even look at the clothes because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. I did see teams of people, guys, looking for the vintage t-shirts.
Yes, that
Mm.
is what Mark
So
has really been looking at
that's
a
a good
lot.
thing. But now there's so many, retro and reproduction. And so you might see that, Camel cigarette t-shirt and think it's from the 70s, but then you look at it, oh, it's from Kohl's,
Right.
3 weeks ago, and it's not, it's not vintage. And so those I've noticed teams of people, they're a little more aggressive around the clothing. So
Mm.
I just go over and look at other stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm analyzing what I like and don't like. And I even bought a lot of 1,000 postcards a
Oh,
few weeks
wow.
on an online estate sale. And I spent some time working through them and learning about them. And yesterday I was just like, this is really tedious. I don't like this. So I just put them all together in a lot, put them on auction, and moving on. Let somebody else who loves it do that, because
Right.
um, most of them would sell for $7 or less. And I'm like, and I got this pile of stuff from the Goodwill outlet that's $50 stuff. You gotta spend your time on what's going to make you the most money. So
Mm.
I admire those postcard people, because it is very tedious to figure all that out. But it's your business. You can do whatever you want. And if you don't like
Absolutely.
doing something, don't do it. Go to what you're drawn to. So what other kinds of things do you look for or have you sold?
Well, one of the more fun things is the Gemmy toys, the things that you press a button and like the flower spin.
Uh-huh.
And it plays In the Mood by Glenn Miller.
Right.
I bought one of those for $4 and turned around and sold it for 75. Somebody in England had reached out to me and said, "Can you post a video of it?" And I did. And he bought it right after that and wrote some very nice feedback. And the funny thing is that Mark found one and gave it to my parents for a gift. And my parents love that thing. They pressed that button and they loved it. You know, that my father still like will play it. And, you know, anything that makes people happy makes me happy. So like the fact
Yeah.
that I sold that and it made somebody happy is great. And I actually recently found another one and just listed it. So I'm hoping that, and it's got a number of views and watchers already. So I'm hoping that one gets sold.
Okay. So the brand is G is in
Gemmy,
George,
Gemmy.
MMY.
And
Okay.
they have other things. If you look them up, they have other things. And I wish I could remember off the
I
top of
know
my
they
head.
have inflatables for like yard
Oh.
inflatables.
I did not know that but like back in, I think the 90s, they had all of these. Oh, I know one. Because I just listed that big, uh, big bass, Billy fish, Billy big fish.
Oh,
I
Billy
can't
Big
remember.
Mouth Bass. Yes.
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 And I just I found one and it actually I bought it for $1.50. It didn't work because the battery compartment, the little thing was broken off. But I asked my father, does electronics, if he could fix it, and he fixed it. And I just posted that one recently, so we'll see. But I'm getting some views on it already for $19.99. And I indicated in there that it had been repaired, and I showed pictures of things, just a full disclosure. But it works, the little head moves and it sings its songs, and it otherwise looks really great. So hopefully that one will sell soon too.
Yeah, I remember the TV commercial for that, and it was annoying. I'm like, why would anybody want that thing? But yeah, people love it.
Yeah, there's, and I bought the flowers and that fish at the same sale. So, I think people who like that kind of thing tend to buy that kind of thing. So, there's a lid for every pot, as they say, right?
Well, and now with the man cave thing, perfect for the man cave, all these annoying toys that guys sitting in there drinking beer and, just being silly and obnoxious. And yeah, man cave decor. That's a good keywords for your title.
Oh, that's good. I'll edit that and see if I can generate a little more action on those.
I found something at the Goodwill bins, and it took me half an hour to figure out what it was. But I'm like, somebody's going to like this. And it was a ceramic decanter in the shape of a cowboy. And he's standing with his legs apart. And there's holes in the side. And I was like, what is this thing? And didn't have any brand name on it, no markings. I did a Google image search and it came up as a whiskey decanter.
Oh.
And it had these 6 or 8 shot glasses that went in those holes on the side. And the shot glasses were missing.
Ah, that's why. Okay.
So they might have been in the bins, but I didn't know it had more parts. And it's just very unusual looking, like
right.
Sell. And I think the price came out to be $2. So, and I put man cave decor on that because you could do anything with it. You could put anything in those spaces where the shot glasses went. But I'm like, somebody's going to want this that's either got a lodge or a man cave or, lives out west and just has all this cool decor in their house. Yeah. So go for the weird and unusual.
Yeah.
We'll see where that goes. Yeah. We'll see where that goes. But
especially if it's an inexpensive price point, like
right.
it's like, sometimes like my phone hasn't worked or whatever. And I'm like, well, it's $1.50. I'll figure it out. And if not, I'll give it away or, whatever. And
yeah.
It's not
or
a big
it's
deal.
Just the price of education. You buy something and you spend some time researching it. And then, oh, wow, this is great. I'm going to look for more of this. Or like, yeah, that's a fail. I don't need to look for that anymore.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, you're balancing your full-time stressful job with eBay. Do you have certain times of the week that you work on it, or is it just kind of on the weekends?
Really on the weekends for buying and listing. And the weekdays, if I sell something, I'll ship it out that night, or within the time period. Basically, I try to batch it with Mark so our postal person only has to come to our, walk up to our house and get packages, a few times a week instead of every day. But that's other than that, I really don't do much on the weekdays just because it's such a long, tiring day most of the time.
Well, I've been seeing your name on the Money Making Mondays
Yeah.
posting sales, so you're obviously doing something right.
Yeah, it's about one a week on average. So far this week, unless I sell something by tomorrow, I don't have anything for tomorrow. But wish me luck that the next 24 hours would be good to me.
Yeah. Well, and I've noticed June was really slow for me.
Yeah, yeah. February and March were definitely hot spots for me. I sold a lot February and March, but then it slowed down a little bit after that. So we'll see how things go.
And you just, keep listing, and eventually your efforts are going to pay off. But I've been doing this 21 years, and sometimes I get really discouraged. I'm like, come on, is eBay broken? Is my email not working? Am I not getting my notifications? Is the app not working? Like,
Right.
what's happening? But it always comes back. It's just this business, being a reseller, takes a lot of patience
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of faith that it'll come back. It's just hard sometimes, and you have hundreds, some people have thousands of items, and you have 2 or 3 days where nothing sells. It's like, okay, is eBay over?
Right. Well, the thing that's helpful to me is it's actually analogous in my work life. I mean, we do commercial real estate deals. That is very much, it's seasonal. It is depending on the economy. And so we will, hit spots where we're like, are we going to have jobs next month? And then we'll like hit months like we just had where I can't barely get off of work at the end of the day because I'm so busy. And so you can't really control when you're going to have those sales, and you might have them, all at the same time. And on a day where you're like, how am I possibly going to get this shipped out? Or you might just have a lull, and you have to just ride the wave and trust that it will come back.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I tend to take it personally. I'm like, what's wrong with my stuff? Why is nobody buying it? So, okay.
Well, yeah.
Do you have any other sales you want to talk about?
No, I was just going to mention that I recently, in one of those lulls, I decided to check prices on a couple of items, and I found one item that I had listed much higher than the other ones that were listed, and that had sold. And so I dropped the price a little bit. I was still making plenty of money off of it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think this was, if I recall correctly, this might have been one of the perfumes, the discontinued perfumes, but it wasn't like a hot brand. And so I dropped the price like 20%, and then it sold. So that is something, if you are having a lull, to consider, is to look up some of your older its and make sure
Yeah.
that they're priced and today's prices, because things change.
Absolutely, they do. And yeah, it's seasonal. Yes, things can sell all year, Christmas things, Halloween things, but there is a seasonality, and we learn to look towards fourth quarter.
As do I my other job. So
For the listeners, if you keep good records of your sales, then when you get in these slow times, you can go back to previous years and say, yeah, well, July kind of always stinks, or whatever. Just for your own knowledge, because everybody's business is different. Some people kill it in the summer, and it's because of what they're selling.
Right. If you're heavy on, on Christmas stuff, Christmas does sell all year, but like I did see an uptick on my Christmas sales in the Christmas season, which makes sense but I also
Right.
sold one of my best items in April. So but there is a little bit of a seasonality to some of these things for sure.
Yeah. Well, you seem to have learned a lot in your 3 years, but you have a guru to help you.
I certainly do. I couldn't ask for a better mentor. He is definitely passionate about selling on eBay. And so he encourages me. He's like, don't forget to list on Suzanne's site. It's Monday, And so
Yeah. And I think he's been in the group almost since it started, maybe. Because I used to sell something called hot lists. I do the research and put together these lists of discontinued items and like grocery items, and um, I would just sell them in my eBay store. It was like just a download, and that's how Lynn found me.
Okay.
And she brought Mark into it, and he started doing it. But um, I said all that to say that I've known him for a long time, and he's been in my group probably since it started in 2008, something like that. And he posts every week.
Yes, he does. 'Cause
And
he
he's
has
like,
sales every week.
it's like Scotch tape, vintage Scotch tape was one of them, and a vintage flicker razor, still new in the package. And just, I love to see his sales because it's like every week it's really somebody bought that, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's fun going to sales with him. We'll meet at the end at the checkout counter and I'm like, what do you have? And he'll show me. I'm like, I walked right by that. I didn't even think about that. So it's been fun, to keep paying attention and growing in my knowledge, but it's exciting to see all the things he finds.
well, you've come a long way. Now he's a professor.
Yes.
And
And I actually works in the dean's office. He's an associate dean now.
does he have some time off in the summer, or is he a 12-month employee?
He is a 12-month employee, but he does have a nice, healthy amount of vacation time, more than I have for sure. I'm in the private sector. I get almost no vacation.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is that. So either you can take it unpaid or not take it.
Yeah, no, they don't let us go unpaid.
Oh, you just have to wait for vacation. Okay.
Yeah, when I do get vacation, so I do get vacation. I do not work on my vacation. I'm very grateful for that. So,
Well, did you break away and take a honeymoon when you got married?
not immediately, but we did go to Portugal in January. So
Oh, great.
we took a
Good.
delayed honeymoon and it was absolutely wonderful.
So you would have got married in 21?
Yes, July
Okay.
1st, 2021.
Well, I've heard of a lot of people that got married in 20 and like postponed their honeymoon till years later
Yeah.
because for everything to get back to normal again. So I just wonder if y'all got caught up in that.
It was still kind of COVID-esque in 2021. There was still question marks. Different places were still doing different things. So it was just easier to wait and really be able to do the vacation fully and relaxed without any concerns. And I'm
Right.
glad we waited. It was just lovely.
Okay. Well, great. Well, we're getting to the end here. Did you want to answer one of the questions at the end?
Sure, I can. And it's funny, I did some thinking. I really don't read very much just because I don't have time.
Mhm.
I only read maybe when I'm on vacation. But podcasts I do all the time because I can put them on, put my AirPods on, get chores done around the house, go do my commute, whatever it is. So I do a ton of podcasts and I do all sorts of different things, everything from news to if I'm watching a TV show, maybe I'm going to listen to that podcast where they discuss that TV show, things like that. But I just discovered a new one. It's kind of nerdy, but I'm very excited about it. It's called Huberman Lab, Huberman. And it's hosted by a professor at Stanford in, I want to say, neurobiology. And he does science-based podcasts where he talks to other scientists, like doctors, science. Like this is not like, people who are doing, scented oils and things like that. This is like true science-based things. And there is the first one that got me hooked on his podcast is he did one on with OBGYN on menopause. And
Oh,
it was the most informative and helpful podcast I have ever listened to. As a woman of a certain age, it's really helpful to understand what's going on. And it was extraordinarily helpful. And so I recommend any woman who is who's 40 years and older should really listen to this, the Huberman's Labs episode on menopause. It is extraordinarily helpful.
Well, great. I'll listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of good information.
Worst thing can happen is you spend an hour listening to it and you didn't get anything out of it, but usually you get something out of it. So
yeah. And for those who don't listen to podcasts, there is a transcript available. It's AI generated, so it's a little hard to read because it's, not perfect. But like I have a friend who doesn't do podcasts, but was really interested in the subject and who read the transcript instead and got a lot of useful information out of it. So if you're into science, that is a great podcast to listen to, and health, anything in health related.
Great. Wonderful. Well, it has just been wonderful to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you as well.
So happy for you and Mark.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Tell him I said hello.
I will. Absolutely.
So thanks so much for taking the time to come on, and we'll look for more of your posts on the group.
Yes. Looking forward to growing with the group, and I will certainly keep posting as I do so.
Great. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, now for today's trivia question. Since Cheryl and Mark have both found the coveted LL Bean boat tote, what year was the boat tote introduced? Here's a few seconds to think it over. Okay, this came from the LL Bean website, how the 1944 LL Bean ice carrier became America's go-to tote. Originally created as an ice carrier in Brunswick, Maine in the fall of 1944, the signature tote's original purpose, like so many LL Bean products, was to be a problem solver. In the 40s and 50s, most homes had only small freezers that were often thick with frost. This required Americans to buy and transport block ice from a distributor, which the ice was then stored in a separate ice chest. The LL Bean ice carrier was the middleman, the means of toting the ice home. Made of heavy oatmeal-colored canvas and riveted where the handles met the edge, the bag was double-layered on the base for extra resistance to abrasion and to keep meltwater in its place, preventing spillage during transport. Durability was so key that the tote was and still is made from the same ironclad material used in conveyor belts and tested to hold up to 500 pounds. Despite its ingenuity, the ice carrier seemingly disappeared from the LL Bean catalog after just one season, only to reemerge 20 years later in the summer of 1965 as the LL Bean boat tote. Styled in nautical red and blue with a taller and more slender form, it quickly became the emblem of New England's seaside life. Over time, the boat tote would become LL Bean's top-selling accessory, with a vast product line that includes a range of colors, sizes, models, customizations, including monograms, and limited editions like those created to honor U.S. national parks. Okay, well, those are fun facts, and I did not know any of that. So now we are all just full of useless information about the iconic LL Bean boat tote. Next week, my guest is a repeat offender and frequent poster on the Money Making Mondays thread, the dumpster diving grandma, Julie Gambino. She was one of my first guests on this podcast back in September of 2021. So we are checking in to see what she's been up to and hear about her finds, sales, and life as a baby boomer eBay reseller working a full-time job. Julie is just so delightful. I really enjoyed catching up and chatting. And you will too. I hope all of you are keeping cool out there. We have had some super hot days here in Illinois. And like I said, I thought I moved north and was done with the dog days of summer. But no, it's just as hot or even hotter north of the Mason-Dixon line than it is south of it. Thanks again for listening and supporting this podcast, and I will talk to you next week. Stay cool, everybody. Bye.